I'm getting most people here.
I'm just photobombing you. I'm just like in the corner, blocking everybody.
All right. Thank you for amusing me with the selfie. Hello, everybody. And I am so excited to be here today. I know that we have some scary news that we have heard throughout the last 3 or so weeks. People getting killed in the streets, people getting killed in detention centers, people getting torn apart, families torn apart in our own community, raids happening, families literally hiding in closets. These are real stories from our own community. So sometimes we hear on TV, right? Oh, this is happening in Minneapolis, or this is happening in Chicago, or this is happening in LA. And we might be failing to see that is actually happening here. So just recently, about a week or so, 2 weeks ago or so, we basically started seeing on social media a conversation about ICE getting an additional 200 rooms at a hotel nearby. And this is extremely concerning because Orlando is one out of 2 places in the entire state that has an immigration court, meaning that they were bringing reinforcement to an area that they already had a lot of officers for. And we quickly saw the numbers of raids increase and also the number of people getting detained. So in essentially what we experienced was a 900% increase in our Orange County jails of people being detained because of ICE holds. And we're getting word that they're about to do another major operation in our community this week, this coming week. And I'd like to remind everybody that February 3rd, TPS, Temporary Protected Status for Haitians, will expire, which is another huge blow for our local community. Just a few months ago, TPS for Venezuelans expired. And now Haitian TPS expiring essentially increases the number of people who are undocumented. So there were essentially 4 big moments that hit, national moments that hit us really particularly intensely. So the first was when, President Trump ended the humanitarian parole, which was a program started by President Biden to allow people from Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti to bring family members into the United States to stop the crossing at the border, which was both a humanitarian issue and also a security issue. And that's the reason why he did it. And people who have family members here in Central Florida brought a ton of people. My husband is Venezuelan, and pretty much every Venezuelan friend that I have brought family members this way. And they came here. They were living here, they were working here, they were contributing here, and then one day they woke up and they didn't have any more status. Similarly to what happened with TPS, which was first for the Venezuelan community a few months ago, which again, hundreds of thousands of people who had a work permit, the next day didn't have it. And then now an additional about 300,000 Haitians that are about to face the same situation this next week. And all of that comes at the face of an additional issue, which is the federal budget. At the same time that the Affordable Care Act was cut, right? A lot of money was put into ICE. So ICE now has a bigger budget than the Marines. So that means that they have the money to actually do these things. So these are your constitutional rights, y'all. It's ours, and it is something that literally our forefathers fought for, died for. And I like to say that the things that I'm going to talk about are from the most basic constitutional rights, right? It's from the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. Well, Tom, you have your hand up.
Yeah, could you define TPS? Maybe everybody doesn't know what TPS stands for.
Yes, so TPS means Temporary Protective Status, which it is a program that was created many years ago for any country that the Department of Homeland Security deems unsafe for people to go back to. So usually these designations are given when there is a major humanitarian issue, a war, a political strife, or a natural disaster. So the first time that Haiti got it was back in 2010 when the earthquake happened, and then later on expanded because of essentially there is no more government in Haiti. Right now, people who are living in Haiti are in constant fear of being raped and killed and kidnapped. And then for Venezuelans, because of the political situation in Venezuela. Well, okay. So the good news is, who has constitutional rights in the United States?
Everyone.
Everyone, yes. No matter what your immigration status is, no matter who you are, no matter anything really, right? That is it's a beautiful thing, and something that we have to safeguard more than ever, right? Really fight to keep it alive. The first thing that I want to talk about is the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution gives us essentially due process. Due process is the idea that the government cannot accuse you of a random thing, put you in jail for some made-up reason, and then throw away the key. That's really what due process is supposed to guard us from, which is the hallmark of tyranny. So I was born in Brazil, and my mom was visiting for a couple of months, and she was talking to me about how a lot of what we're living here reminds her of what it feels like to live under the dictatorship, which was what she had to deal with basically her entire 20s and 30s, essentially. She voted for the first time when she was 32 years old. And when I was talking to her, it is basically the idea that you can be accused, taken out, and disappeared, which is essentially what's going on. But that also means that we can refuse to answer questions from any law enforcement, and that includes ICE. And what that means is that we have the right to remain silent. That's a very important thing that we have to know and understand and also teach each other. Anything and everything that you say to an officer can be used against you or against someone else. So another thing that I like to remind everybody is that they are allowed to lie to us, but we're not allowed to lie to them. So they could say things like, sign this thing, say this thing, and then you get to be with your kid. These are real stories. Things that they have said. Oh, no, your kid is in school, I'll let you leave as long as you say that you were born in another country. And then all of that gets used against you in a court of law. So again, remain calm and remember, you have the right to remain silence. And you can refuse to sign absolutely anything without the presence of your attorney. Simply by saying, I'm not going to sign anything unless my attorney is present. Even if you don't have an attorney. You don't have to have an attorney to assert the right that you have the right to an attorney. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to already have signed something with somebody. You could just say, I'm not going to sign anything unless I have my attorney present. And these are things that we have to teach our community. It's really hard, though, because especially coming from Latin America and the Caribbean, we are taught to respect authority. So when a police officer or an officer comes to talk to us, and doctors and lawyers, teachers, right? We are taught not to push back. So we have to teach our community that that's actually not pushing back. It's just you are asserting your rights, doing what you're supposed to do. And that's the same thing here for anyone. Again, they could say, sign this thing, and then I would allow you to go back to your wife tonight. I mean, these are things that they would do and say to get people to sign documents that essentially give away their rights to due process. The other is the Fourth Amendment, which is the right against unreasonable searches and seizures, okay? Now, ICE, this is true about ICE, but it's also true about law enforcement in general. We don't have to open our private homes, unless they have a judicial warrant signed by a judge. That's a constitutional right, a fundamental one. And I know that we have seen a memo. Actually, I was at the DC and I had just said that exact words, right? And then I went home that night Now you have to remember that I live my days without really looking at the TV until I get home again at some point at night. So at some point that day, there was this leaked memo that the Associated Press reported on that ICE was going to, well, essentially said that they were only going to use their administrative warrants to break into people's homes. So, I got home, I watched TV, and immediately I thought, man, I am just so sick and tired of waking up with less rights than the day before. It literally felt so incredibly like that when that moment happened. And the first thing I did is that I called a constitutional attorney. And I asked, I was like, well, is this true? Is this real? And because, some of these things look surreal, right? The federal government is saying, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, right? And she said, an administrative memo does not change the Constitution. So it is still our constitutional rights. And what that does is that anything and everything that's seized while they are doing it so in a illegal way cannot be used in a court of law. And that is critical information for us to teach our community. Because sometimes people are like, oh, but ICE doesn't care about what we do or what we say. That is true. And also, you still are going to hopefully have a day at court, and that only is going to happen if you assert your constitutional right. Actually, there were 3 different Venezuelan folks who a federal judge here in Orlando released from deportation, specifically because their constitutional rights were not respected. So, however, here's the deal. Opening the door is considered consent. That's the reason why you have to keep the door closed. We teach people to look through the Ring doorbell, to look through, here's easy because you could actually just ask them, let me see it. And then they just put it against it. But put it under the door, if they do have a judicial warrant. And actually later on here, there is a picture of what it looks like. And then I'll point out key things that you have to watch out for when looking at a judicial warrant. This is so important, y'all. Do not open the door unless they have a judicial warrant signed by signed by a judge. Now, the other thing, this is true also for your car. It is also true for your purse. It is also true for your pockets. Even because sometimes people are like, well, yes, at home I understand, but what about out in the world? It's the same thing. Now, I'm going to give you all little key things that you can say if they, abuse that will allow you to still in a very peaceful way assert your rights. Just kind of quick things that you could say in moments like this. Let me just see if you have a question here before I keep going. No?
Lots of questions, but we'll wait to the end.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, and to this day, I haven't seen ICE actually show up with a judicial warrant in anyone's house. So I'm not saying it never happens, but it's virtually, in my experience, I have never seen it. And you better believe I've seen a lot of ICE raids. But they've never, at least since I've started, I have personally dealt with a case that they actually had a judicial warrant signed by a judge. The reason why is because it's hard to get it. You actually have to follow the process. The court system is a serious system. It's the checks and balance, right? But it's really important for us to know. Okay, so
They just show up at a house, somebody opens the door, and then
as long
laws don't apply anymore.
Yeah, if you open the door, it's considered consent. That's the reason why it's important to not, unless they have the warrant signed by a judge, the judicial warrant signed by a judge. Okay, so here's some short phrases you could use to help you because let me just be honest, it's a nerve-wracking moment, okay? There is somebody wearing a mask with a gun in front of your house. And you're freaking out, right? So you have to remember, it's like a drill, okay? When you remember when you're in school, or if you work in a big building, now that Tom is at City Hall, he will experience some of those. Like it's a fire drill, right? The reason for the fire drill is so you know exactly what to do if there is a fire or an emergency. That's why you train it, because our brain, when we're freaking out, when the lizard brain comes in, we don't really think through things. But if we practice it, we are more likely to do the right thing, right, in the case of an emergency. So first of all, what do you do when you're refusing consent to search by an ICE officer, the police, or Border Patrol? No, you may not search me, my car, my home. I do not consent to this search. That's another way to say it. So say they broke into my house, they're inside my house, they're about to arrest me, and then I say, I do not consent to this search. I asserted my right, not only by not allowing them to come into my house, but if they do and they infringed upon my constitutional rights, and I say that too, it actually builds up my case even further. And it's the same thing that you could say in the world, right? Out in the world. Let me search you. I do not consent to the search. That's one way. The other one is they're outside your house, they're knocking at your door, right? You ask for the judicial warrant, it is not a judicial warrant, whatever they're showing, and then you say, no, you may not come in without a warrant. And then just don't say anything else. Okay, I'm gonna show what an ICE warrant looks like, because that does not count. But they might have it. Go ahead.
Might I suggest 2 pieces of paper, one that is taped to the inside of your door with the things you're going to speak through the door to the ICE officer. Tape it right on your door. That way you're not looking for it, you're not nervous. You just get up and read it as you shout through the door.
Yeah, that's a great
Might I
idea.
suggest for the outside of the door that you write, I don't consent to this search, basically the same thing. You also might want to get a copy, not the original document, but if you want to put a copy of your driver's license on the outside of the door, or they have now where you can get a 2x3 plasticized page of your passport and put that outside the door and just say, read this and leave.
Well, those are great ideas. He's an attorney.
I would suggest, I'm an attorney, so I would also suggest that don't put a chain on your door. Because some people think, as you said, well, my door is a bit secure. I mean, I guess they could break it down if they really tried. But if you open the door, even when it's chained, it is, as you say, consent.
It's considered consent, yes. And then again, you have your right to your day in court, and that's what due process is about. So anything that they collect on an illegal search that you do not consent without a judicial warrant signed by a judge cannot be used in court. That's what this is about.
But are they doing that? Aren't they just picking people up and throwing them in detention centers and nobody knows where they are and there's thousands of people that have disappeared?
A lot of what they're doing is unconstitutional, yes, and without any regard for due process or humankind, yes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also, we have plenty of cases of people that we've been able to help because they follow their constitutional rights. However, if you don't know it, you don't know how to assert it. That's why these workshops are so critical. So everything that we talk about here, my request is that you talk to 5 other people about it too. Because the more we spread the news and the more we teach this, the more we're able to save as many people as possible, including, our own selves, right?
Make a comment. We have a guy that comes to the house to do, fix things, and he's Cuban, and he was telling me that 2 family members were taken to Alcatraz. But they've been able to talk to the family constantly. And I said, that's because we have people here in Orlando in Florida who've been fighting that. Because before you couldn't even find them,
Yeah.
but they could talk to the family every day if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Alcatraz or alligator?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was wrong.
In the Everglades, yes. It's the Everglades Detention Center. Absolutely. So let me just keep going. So, because we have lots to cover, but I'll take more comments at the end. So another really critical constitutional right is our Sixth Amendment constitutional right, which is our right to counsel, our right to an attorney. That basically means that we get our fair trial. The idea is simple. If I don't know the law, I don't know how to protect myself from the law, so I need a person who actually studied, who passed the bar to defend me in court. It sounds very basic, but 70% of the people who go through the immigration proceedings without an attorney, they're not successful. So the right to an attorney is a very essential, critical piece and something that we have the right to. That's the reason why we can say, no, I'm not going to sign anything without the presence of my attorney. No, I'm not going to say anything without the presence of my attorney. I have the right to remain silent. That's really critical. And this includes deportation proceedings, okay? So everyone in this country have that right. Okay, so another question that a lot of people have is, what are the immigration agencies? Okay, how many of you have just started watching this now and sort of became aware of the situation in a more kind of recent way, and it's been just very confusing for you? It's okay, it's okay.
All of us.
I am confused all the time, and I've been doing this for a long time. Well, there are essentially three major agencies that focus on immigration enforcement. So one is Customs and Border Protection, or Border Patrol. Now, why is this so important for us to understand? Border Patrol has jurisdiction within 100 miles of the border. And the ocean is a border, which means that in the state of Florida, the entire state is within the jurisdiction of Border Patrol. Border Patrol can ask anybody within its jurisdiction for their immigration status. Also, Border Patrol is known to have more, let's call it more aggressive attitudes and also more aggressive tactics towards the places that they have jurisdiction within, such as doing checkpoints and things of that nature, which is very common, okay? But now they have a lot more money. So they are likely to do more. Actually, around the ports, you see more of their presence. Also, I've seen a lot of them at the border with Georgia. I've seen a lot of them everywhere, really. But just so you know, that's who they are, and they do have that right. But you have the right to remain silent. Remember that. The second is Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is what we are seeing on TV. ICE is actually a very new agency. So it's not like ICE existed forever, okay? ICE was, so back in 9/11, when 9/11 happened, there was a shift in immigration policy that immigrants essentially became part of the Department of Homeland Security. And ICE did not exist before that, but now it does. And ICE is supposed to be the police, essentially, like the police, the interior police, right? And they have the right to ask people for their immigration status, anyone. But again, you have the right to remain silent. And then third is U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, also known as that. Those are the people who process visas, green cards, citizenship processes, and things of that nature. So here in Lake Nona, there's a really large Venezuelan community, and a lot of folks are seeking asylum. So usually when somebody's saying, oh, I have an asylum case, right? They mean is within USCIS. Traditionally, and I want to underline the word traditionally because we're not living in traditional times, USCIS is not involved on enforcing the immigration law. Reason why is because you need to feel safe to put your papers through. If you don't trust it, you might not do it, right? but that has been a big shift, and including as a recent memo that USCIS is going to start to denaturalize U.S. citizens. So, this is really scary because one, there has been a history in the past of the U.S. denaturalizing people that they don't agree with the government, right? That's been the past of the U.S. and that could be what could be coming next. But I wanted to kind of just take a second here because 75 countries have essentially been banned from getting immigration processes through, including Venezuela, Haiti, but also countries like Brazil, many countries that we have a large population here in Central Florida. So for folks who have been in the process, all of that is halted, which makes them also vulnerable. Okay. Who can enforce immigration law? The folks who I just talked about and explained it. But here in Florida, also the local police, the sheriff, because they have signed 287G agreements. 287G agreements are essentially agreements between local municipalities and ICE. And I'm gonna get into it in a second about it. But you're good. So here in the city of Orlando, 100 OPD officers have been deputized and trained to enforce immigration law. And in Orange County, 100 sheriffs, sheriff deputies, so 200 just there. But every municipal government, including UCF, have deputized people too, their law enforcement. So that means that pretty much no matter where you are, that could be on a local law enforcement agency, and you don't know who they are. Right? It's not like they're wearing like a special pin if they've been deputized. Go ahead.
Quick question, was that forced on them or from the state or the federal government, or is it still sort of voluntary?
I'm going to talk about it in a second. I'm going to go into it. And then the other is the state infrastructure in Florida have essentially been co-opted, and now most of different law enforcement agencies within the state are also enforcing immigration law. This is the reason why I'm running for state house, y'all. Last year in February, there was anti-immigrant law that passed, that I'll go into it in a second, but it included $300 million of funding for immigration enforcement. And also, the governor has been using his emergency powers to fund building detention centers, right? Such as the Everglades Detention Center, which we know there are about $600 million that was spent on that, and an additional $15 million for a detention center in Jacksonville called the Baker Detention Center. And so basically now we are in a situation where trust between the local community and local law enforcement has been eroded, and also especially the state troopers, Fish and Wildlife, I mean, you name it, they are actually doing raids. And the number one reason that we are seeing people getting detained here is because they are driving without a license to go to work, to take somebody to school or to a hospital, whatever it may be. We know we don't have good public transportation here, right? That's not a secret. I'm sure most of us drove here unless you live real close. But the truth is, you do what you gotta do, right? You gotta survive. But every single time an undocumented person is getting out of their house, they're running a real risk. That's why there's so much fear, people hiding right now, sometimes forever. So I have some pictures. They're colorful in the actual PowerPoint that we'll share later. Paul has it. But just so you know kind of like what it looks like, what the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol looks like, their uniforms, what the uniform of ICE is, even though ICE lately has been going without any uniform and wearing masks. But this is what it looks like. So if you see it, you know what it looks like. So speaking to the 287G agreement. So there are essentially three kinds of 287G agreements. And and the reason why I'm going to go through them, because I want to explain why the ones that we have locally is specifically harmful. So one is a jail enforcement model that essentially if somebody is in the jail and they have a deportation order or something of that nature, then ICE will be alerted, right? And then ICE will have about 48 hours to come pick them up. I'm gonna say like generally speaking. And then the other one is the warrant service officer, which is when a person gets booked, they could be questioned about their immigration status, which is slightly different versus like, oh, you got pinged versus I'm asking you specifically, like, Lindsay, where are you from? You know what I mean? Like that's it's different, right? So there is a person that during the during the booking process can ask someone for their immigration status. So that's the warrant service officer, okay? That's the second type. And the third is the task force model, which is essentially the police officer out in the street can be asking about immigration status and also could be collaborating with immigration in the case of a local operation.
Are these also times when we should not answer?
I'm sorry?
Are these also times when we should not answer?
Oh, yes. So these are just types of...
When you're getting booked and they say, where's your immigration status?
Yes. That's true like throughout the whole process, right? If you get detained, to remain silent and not to sign anything unless you have an attorney present. So this is what OPD, the Sheriff's Department, have signed on to. It's the task force. So it's the more aggressive one, actually. The other thing that I wanted to name is that there is some that it's actually particularly relevant for us is the Intergovernmental Service Agreement, which you probably see me on the Orange County Committee meeting pretty often talking about this specifically. So this is essentially an agreement that allows a jail to detain people from any place of the state. So somebody who was detained, say, I don't know, Miami, could end up in our jail. There are only 6 counties in the state that has this specific agreement, and we are one of them. And this is one of the reasons why we have such an overcrowded jail right now, because people are getting detained and arrested and booked and sent to our jail. Now, what's so important about this, for ICE perspective, is that if ICE has to go to every single jail in every single county, it takes longer. But if they're able to capture one place that's sort of like a catch-all, then they can bring more people in. Just think about it from the logistics, quote unquote. I hate to call it these things, but that's how they see it. That's how they call it. So we are actually actively fighting against this, and what we're asking for is for the county to sue the state, because the Florida state law requirement is only for the warrant service officer agreement inside of a jail. So nothing else. That's what the state law says. But what the governor is doing is that the governor is using a really very broad kind of like sentence in this law, this really horrible anti-immigrant law that passed last February, that kind of says best efforts, which means like, oh, you have to do whatever the hell we want you to do. That's how he's interpreting that, right? And then every single time they just add more to it. So it's like, oh, you know what? We want your jail. You know what? We actually want you to bring the other people to the detention center, like transportation. Oh, you know what? We want this other thing. Like that's how they are essentially going to our local governments and little by little adding more things that is not in the actual state law. So what we're asking is for the county mayor and the county commissioners to sue the state for clarification on the state law. And through our research with attorneys, we believe that because they were actually threatened to be removed, and if you watch the video, several of them talked about how they were voting under duress, which is against the law. To force the elected official to vote one way or the other, that's against the law too. because if they don't, then they will they were being threatened with jail time, fines, and to be removed from office, right? That was what the threat was. All of that means that they were under duress, that they voted, but they voted without the best interest of the community that they serve in mind. They voted because they were fearful, right? So they have grounds to actually do this lawsuit, and this is why we're working on that, and we're asking them to do so. We do have some good news. The mayor finally said that he's considering it, and it will be up for the next Tuesday meeting. So if you feel compelled and passionate about this, we'd love to have you there.
He is
February
the
10th.
governor.
So Felipe, just to put a little point on that, the city of Orlando does not have a jail. So we don't have a jail. Everybody that the city police arrest, they go to the county jail. So we don't have a similar
Obligation.
service agreement like that. We do have the task force model.
Yeah. So the city signed the task force model and also deputized 10% of the force, which is 100 officers. So I don't think that that's what the city should have done. This is my stance, and I think everybody knows. And if you read the op-ed that I wrote on the Orlando Sentinel, you saw me talking about it more in depth about it. The other one is the local officers. Now, you know why? You can't really see it with the color here, but why is this important to teach the community? Because whenever something happens, we need to be able to document what happened in order for us to build a case for the attorney. But if you don't know who arrested the person, you don't even know how to help them, right? Was it the police? Was it OPD? Was it Apopka PD? Was it the sheriff? Now, for an immigrant mind, that's just like, they don't understand, right? It's like one and the same. So this is why we actually use pictures to teach people what they each look like, because they could say, I don't know, but they were wearing green. Oh, great, that's the sheriff. You know what I mean? Like,
It could be Border Patrol.
that too. Oh, I don't know, they were wearing blue. Oh, most likely OPD, right? Like, that's kind of like how it goes. But that's just something to remind folks, right, that it's important to use pictures when we are talking to people, and also what the highway patrol looks like. I know that all of us know what this looks like, but again, this is also for you to, I know, we're all afraid of that, no matter who you are.
Why is everyone looking at me?
I don't speed. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. If ICE is at your home, so first of all, we always teach people to remain calm. The one thing that we always have to remember that this is a law enforcement agent that has a gun and could kill you. So you have to always remember that our number one thing that we want to do is to stay alive and to stay safe. So remaining calm is the number one thing you need to be able to do. The second is to ask them to show a warrant and to show their badge. They might be with their mask, etc. But in this country, we should be able to ask our law enforcement agencies, I want to see your badge. Who are you? And let me see this warrant. Again, do not allow ICE to go inside your house. Do not give them permission to come in unless they have a judicial warrant signed by a judge. Remember that if you open the door, it's considered consent, including just a little bit. We have little cards that I ran out of because I've been giving them out like there's no tomorrow, but I'm happy to make them available. We're in the process of printing them. But they basically go over these rights, and then there is like a back part that essentially goes into I am gonna assert my constitutional rights, but in English, and the other one, but the specific constitutional rights in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Creole. So yeah, people can just like slide their Know Your Rights card right under the door. Again, state clearly that you are asserting your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and actually stay silent.
This is how it goes.
Oh yeah, this is what it looks like, yes. Yes. So, again, and remain silent. This also includes you if you're outside, okay? Say somebody's outside my house. Say ICE is outside my house, right? And I say, hey, let me see your warrant, whatever. I'm gonna remain silent. But say Paul is my neighbor, right? And then he doesn't know his constitutional rights yet. So he could scream out, Felipe, are you okay? Well, the officer knows Felipe isn't there. So this applies to everybody, including everybody who is around it. You know, if you see it and you want to participate in a process of documentation, I'm going to go into it in a second. You can, and you're allowed to, but do not also disclose things about the person if you know that. And then call a lawyer, right? Like it's what we teach at work. What I do is that I talk to folks about putting together what we call it a dignity plan, which is essentially a plan for in the case of a deportation or a detention, including what to do with their kids, putting other people's names on the database so their kid could get picked up from school, to create power of attorney so they don't lose all their money in the bank, to actually have a plan of what to do if this actually happens. So call an attorney and have a family emergency plan, right, which is what I'm talking about. Now, the other thing that I actually have heard from a lot of people who've been detained recently is that you have the right to make a phone call, but they take your phone. So how many of you, I mean, maybe you all are better than me about this, but I'm telling you, I'm so bad. I didn't even know my husband's phone number. I had to sit down and memorize it the other day. But it's important for us to tell people that they're going to take your phone. So you have to memorize at least one number so you are able to call somebody. Okay, and then the next page is, now, they are inside your house. They broke into the door. They're inside your house. Again, I do not consent to you being on my home or any searches, right? There's a little sentence here. I'm exercising my right to remain silent. I will not talk without a lawyer present. Again, you're just basically asserting what you already heard. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to sign anything unless there is an attorney. And I do not consent to the search if they broke into your house. Yes.
Film that on your phone.
You know, the difficulty with that is that sometimes that could feel safe to film it. Yes, that is, yes. If you have a way to prove it with your phone or a video is always best. But also, again, these are folks who may come in hot. And if you don't feel safe, you know, write your eyewitness account and notes still works. But yes, it is better to have it recorded. Do not resist. Do not resist. It is a horrible thing that this people or even us may be facing this injustice, but to resist could also mean to die. So do not resist or interfere. Okay, if they are coming into my house, they're breaking everything, all I'm gonna say is I do not consent to the search. I am gonna remain silent, and I won't sign anything unless my attorney is present. And then I'm just gonna stay out of the way and do not interfere with anything. And then afterwards, a group of people can come, take pictures, document everything that got broken, etc., etc., etc. But the most important thing is to literally to tell the tale. That's the most important part in that moment. And you know, you gauge. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it could feel okay to like record. Sometimes it might not feel. You know, it depends on how it goes. Tell them that if you have any medical issues, right away. Oh, I need insulin. Oh, I take this med. Oh, I do this, I do that, right? It's, you know, or I have kids. Can I make a phone call and have somebody see my kid? That stuff that you could say. Another thing, do not lie. Again, to lie to a law enforcement agency is breaking the law. and it could get you in even more trouble. So do not lie. Do not lie. I think that sometimes people can feel like threatened, right, in the moment. And again, you have to remember from a cultural perspective, right? When a law enforcement agency is with you, and in many communities and many cultures, it's considered an authority. So you want to answer because you're respecting authority. But the whole goal is to teach people not to do that. That respecting authority is respecting the Constitution of the United States, and they have constitutional rights. Yes, go ahead.
This is assuming that you've decided to speak.
That too. Mm-hmm. That too.
That's always the default position, is don't speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is the easiest thing to do. Do not sign anything. Do not say anything. That is the smartest thing to do, always. Sort it out later. But in generally speaking, it is the best thing to do.
They can still arrest, they can take you even though you're not speaking, right?
Yes, but again, the way you're arrested, the way that they get proof on you, as if it's all done in an unconstitutional way, then it can still help you in a court of law, right? Do not show any false documents. Things like false passport, birth certificate, whatever. Do not show anything that's false. Also, do not show anything that's real too.
Do not show anything.
Yes, do not show anything, period. Yes. So, I remember when I was I was undocumented for 15 years of my life, and I didn't have a driver's license. So I used to use my Brazilian passport as an ID. You know what I mean? Like, because that was the only ID I had access to. Because, I was a kid and I wanted to go to the bar. And I needed to be carded, right? And I would always hide it. So I would go in and then hide it under my shoe. So if I ever was in a situation that they were coming for me, right? I didn't have necessarily, my passport was a little hidden, right? But do not show any documents. Essentially, that's what the advice here is. And then again, after ICE has left, take pictures. Take pictures of everything. Write as best as you can the account. If you couldn't record it, right? I mean, obviously, if you have a recording, then you're good. But if you don't, you could still use pictures, eyewitness account, information that you're able to collect in a court of law. Go ahead.
Being a legal alarmist, as I am, I would suggest taking pictures of your house as it is now.
That's true. That is true too.
The non-harmed and broken things.
That is true.
That way, when you leave and you take pictures of what's gone behind, what happened to the big screen TV? Oh, no, sir, you didn't have a big screen TV.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
They can take that stuff from my house?
Oh, sure they have.
So what to do if they approach you in the street? So one, again, stay calm and do not run. So sometimes you see people run, people get freaked out when they run, and it's actually very dangerous. So do not run. You do not have to answer anything. Stay calm and say nothing. Do not respond with your name or anything else. I have the right to remain silent. That's it. Again, do not lie. Do not show anything false. Some key things that you could say in a situation like that is, I don't want to answer your questions. I do not consent to a search. And then, am I free to go? So when ICE doesn't have a way to prove that you are not a U.S. citizen or you're here without documents, technically, they might just question you and they may let you go if you don't disclose the information. And that's the reason why you am I free to go? And they may let you go because they don't have anything on you.
Well, you got to be careful with that, because as soon as you say, I don't want to answer your questions, or am I free to go, and they listen for your accent.
Yeah, they could use it. However, you know what I mean? You could always, that is a tool in your toolbox. You could ask, this is true for all law enforcement, okay? Am I free to go? Okay, so again, it's important for us to have a process in place and to practice. This is like a fire drill, okay? It is very scary to be in the situation and then assert your rights. But then if it's sort of like memorized and you're just sort of like doing it, so practice it with yourself and with the people you love. Yes.
So what is one supposed to do? Like last night I met a Russian woman, and she said that she has, green card, but she now carries her paperwork in her,
With herself.
with herself. I mean, if she gets approached and they intimidate her and ask like, hey, I need, prove that you are, what is she supposed to do? Is she supposed to pull out that piece of paper and say, hey, I'm
If she has a green card,
yes, that's what she said.
well, in general, my advice is to remain calm and to assert your constitutional right to not say anything. But if you feel like, in her case, she is in a vulnerable situation, if she has a green card and she wants to try to show it to them and see if that gets her out, I don't think that's a bad thing either. But, we're seeing a lot of abuses, right? So it may or may not be taken. That's really what the difficulty here is. But in general, right? This is the part that's the part that's hard, because some of it is about your gut, right? Sometimes you could be dealing with, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you could be dealing with an officer that isn't so aggressive, that showing your green card gets you out of gets out of harm's way, and then sometimes that might not be the case, right? But in general, anything that you show, anything that you give to them could be used against you too, generally speaking. So the other part that I wanted to talk about is workplaces, because of potential workplace raids. So workplaces have public spaces and private spaces. What that means is, let's say, for example, in a restaurant, right? When you go to dine, that's considered a public space, because anybody can come in. That's kind of like the rule of thumb. Like that doesn't count to a private home, because nothing about a private home will ever be public, right? It's a private property. But say at a church, the sanctuary could be considered a public space. But then there are private spaces that only authorized people can go to, like an office, like classrooms, like etc., etc., etc. The kitchen, right? The bathroom. I mean, the bathroom depends on the bathroom. Depends on the bathroom. It's private, but not private, depending on the situation. But like a kitchen, and like think about it like that. This is why we actually work with business owners to determine what is public, what is not public for them. And to put signs that specifically say private, only authorized people from here. And those private places, only with a judicial warrant signed by a judge, they can go into. But in the public spaces, they can still go into. So if they come into a public space in your workplace, right, they need to have the warrant. They don't need the warrant. That's what I meant to say. They don't need the warrant. But the private spaces, it will be illegal for them to go into without the judicial warrant signed by a judge. So you have to create a plan for your business where the supervisor and the managers, whoever it is, right, need to essentially have a plan for themselves and anyone who is vulnerable, which could be both employees, but also it could be customers, depending on the business, right? So again, if you need more information on that, I'm happy to have more conversations about it and share more information on it too. Again, do not run, stay calm, right? You still have the right not to say anything, and make a plan with your coworkers, with your colleagues. We know who we are. We know who is vulnerable. I do want to highlight that it is not just undocumented people who are vulnerable right now. People who may have quasi-statuses, right? Like, for example, DACA. There's been several documented people who've been arrested and detained by ICE, right? So make a plan with your coworkers and then remember what to do. So carry a Know Your Rights card, which We just showed and tell a little bit. But that's exactly what this page shows, exactly what it's on the card in those these three other languages that I mentioned. And then on the back, it basically says, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm not gonna sign anything. And then I wanna show y'all a little video here. This is a great website. We have rights.us if you wanna get more into it later.
On his way to work one morning, Abdi noticed an SUV in front of his neighbor Andrea's home. When Andrea came outside, two men approached her. It was ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. If you witness ICE or any law enforcement agents making an arrest in public, it is your right to film the interaction as long as you do not interfere with the arrest. ICE doesn't always respect these rights, and sometimes will target the person filming, so always assess your personal risk before hitting record. If you're not comfortable filming, that's okay. You can still document the arrest by taking notes on what happens or simply bearing witness. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. When documenting an arrest, film openly and comply with any instructions the agents give you. If the agents tell you to stop filming, you can tell them, I am exercising my right to document this arrest. Abdi let Andrea know that he was there to support her and document the agent's behavior. If the agents ask you to step back, document yourself complying and continue filming if you feel comfortable. Always keep your camera focused on law enforcement, not the person being arrested or their family members. Showing their identities can make them vulnerable to retaliation. The agents claimed to have a warrant, but it was not signed by a judge. Be sure to capture details like any documents the agents are carrying, as well as weapons, badges, and uniforms. Capture context, such as street signs, landmarks, and any other cameras that are present, but don't stop recording in between shots. If the agents become violent, remain calm and allow your footage to speak for itself. If you do narrate, focus on facts, such as time of day and number of agents. Do not reveal the identity of the person being detained, their immigration status, or their criminal history. Anything the agents learn during an arrest can be used in court. ICE does not have the right to confiscate your phone or to delete your footage, but they may try anyway. Lock your phone with at least a 6-digit passcode. Your passwords are protected under your Fifth Amendment right, but fingerprint ID, facial recognition, and pattern lock are not. Andrea was arrested. Other videos in this series will help you understand what your rights are if ICE arrests you or stops you in your community. After filming, make a copy of your footage on a separate device and don't change the file name. If you edit the footage, do so from a copy. This will help the original stand up as evidence in court. Abdi did not post the footage to social media or live stream it, knowing that doing so could expose him and Andrea's family to retaliation. Instead, he shared it with Andrea's family and their lawyer. They decided how to release it. Your footage will be more effective when released strategically in partnership with a lawyer, an advocacy organization, or a reputable journalist. If you witness ICE making an arrest, remember, you have rights.
Thank you. That's the website. We have rights.us. There are several videos.
Question.
Yeah.
You know, it appears that there are a lot of safeguards built into the system to protect people's rights. But from a practical standpoint, it's putting the burden on the person that is being arrested or whatever. And, you know, having worked a lot in lower income communities, that people either don't know what their rights are, or they're afraid to even exert them for all kinds of reasons. And the idea of having access to legal support is pretty slim. I mean, unless you have your own attorney. So I guess if I have any questions with the myriad of issues that really affect how the enforcement side works, what are some short-term things that can be done to stop this? I know it's right, when I look at the news, everything that we see are the things that we could say this is in violation of. So are there any things in this environment that can be done to really, it's not that people don't know, because people see it on the TV every day. Is there anything that's going to have an impact?
I'm going to talk about some ideas on policies and ways that you can stay engaged. Also, I have two of my friends from the Immigrants Are Welcome Here Coalition. They're going to share also ways that you can stay active and engaged on the process. But I'll get to your question in a bit, because that's a very good question.
Felipe, are you getting this information out to the people who really need it? Have you been, like, do you speak to a lot of immigrant groups and stuff?
Yes.
How is it really getting disseminated?
This is the work. This is my work, y'all. This is what I do nonstop. And this is what I'm here to recruit you to help me do too. Yeah, I need you to take this information to every person you know. I need that. That is the task. So yeah, and honestly, I would say too, just, in this moment here, it's been really hard to keep up with my candidate life when my day job is not a day job. It is a lifelong job that never really ends, and it's always ongoing. So I will also share with y'all later ways that you can help me as a candidate. Go ahead.
This is just a innocent, curious question. When you spend time with those immigrants and you try to educate them like this, what has been the statistics of how they act? How do they interact? Or do they usually get intimidated? Especially the ones who don't speak English and...
In general, when people are empowered with information, they use the information. What I mean...
I'm saying, is that what you've seen in general with our immigrants here?
If they know the information, they assert their rights. But most people don't know the information. And that's the problem. That's been the problem. And honestly, this is why it is not a Felipe thing. It is a us thing, because there is not one person, not one organization, not one anything that can reach 1.5 million people who live in Orange County. And there is not one tactic that reaches everybody. It doesn't exist. It is going to the mosque. It is going to the church. It is going to meetings like this. It is talking to the grandma. It is talking to the person in the street. It's asking the person who is cutting her grass. It is that. And that's how we get this information more disseminated.
Real quick, it is showing up and talking with the people around you. It's getting out of ourselves and saying, I'm Jill, who are you, why are you here, and how are we connected?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I wanted to kind of go over this idea of the recording ICE, because this has been on TV a lot. We know what happened to Renee Nicole Good. We know what happened, what keeps happening, right? Nonstop, right? That ICE is not only hurting immigrants, but also those protesting, right? That's all true and it's happening. But you have a First Amendment right to record any law enforcement agency. That's our right. And here in Florida, there is something called the HALO law that does say that if a police officer tells you to back off, you have to back off at least 25 feet away, which is about like the size of a school bus, more or less from where I'm standing to that, more or less. But the great thing is that our cameras are great on our phones and we can just zoom in and still get the info. Key things that I do want to share about this particular video that are best practices. Remember that you're there to help somebody, right? And you're trying to help gather information for that person's case. That's your goal. You're not there to protest. That's not the protesting moment. I was just in a protest before I came here. There are the times to protest, but that one is not that time, not to antagonize the ICE officer, none of that. Actually is the time to be very meek. So when I have to go talk to ICE in a situation like that, I wear a suit. I'm like, hey, hi. I was just wondering, what are you doing here? And also I don't necessarily wear shirts with my campaign. I look like a random person just asking a question, right? Because that would essentially allow me to record. Again, like that moment right there, it's about that person who's getting detained, right? Don't show their face on the video because there are a lot of cases of people who get hurt in detention centers when these things come out. That's the reason why it's important to first talk to their family, right? Not to say anything that could incriminate that person in that moment, right? Oh, Felipe, you're from Brazil, oh my God. Not the good time to, not the right time to say that, And then again, this is something that we don't ask people who are not U.S. citizens to do. So this is the rule for a person who is a U.S. citizen, feels like this is something that they want to get involved with. The ACLU is doing a training every single week on Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. on how to do this. So they'll go into way more in depth with what this is. And then there is a network called RAISE that is statewide that we're actually actively building here in Orange County to specifically document these issues. So say, for example, you're part of RAID, right? There is this RAISE, and you're part of the network. You live here in Lake Nona, something is happening in Lake Nona. They will show you a picture. Oh, we got a report. Go to this place, and then you're gonna go see and confirm. That's important because we also don't want to put out false information because then people will stay even more afraid, right? But if there is an ICE raid going on, we want to be able to document that and we want to be able to alert people who may be vulnerable. Okay, the judicial warrant. This is what it looks like. So one, it says it on top, United States District Court. And then you'll be at this district court depending on where you're at. But you will have that. The second thing is that you will have a date, a specific date. And they expire within 15 days. So say, for example, it's a judicial warrant, right? Signed by a judge, but it's a year ago, it still cannot be used. The judicial warrant will have information about where the search needs to happen. So if they were coming here, they had a judicial warrant, they'll say they're looking for Eric, and then it says Eric's name on it, his address, and then the judicial warrant will say, you can only search you can only search the kitchen, or you can only search the bedroom. Judicial warrants will have specific places that can be searched, and not every place will be searched. That's how it goes. The other thing is that you will be signed by a judge. That's key. If it is not signed by a judge, it is not valid. That's what a judicial warrant looks like. On the other side is what an administrative warrant looks like, which is the administrative warrant that some folks were asking about. I'll go.
A federal warrant.
Say that again?
Does it always have to be a federal warrant?
It has to be a judicial warrant signed by a judge.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to always be a federal court.
Yeah, but you will have like a district court, blah, blah, blah. It will always do. Yeah, and you will have a specific place where it needs to be. You will have a date, and you'll be signed by a judge.
I'm sorry, I'm confused, because this is a federal law that they're doing. They can go to a state court to get a warrant?
No, this will be a judicial warrant. It will be a federal warrant. Yes, not a state warrant.
Okay, because we have the police that can, okay.
Yeah, but that's because they're federal.
So there is a state. So if a police officer, which is not the same as a ICE agent, comes into your house with a judicial warrant signed by a state state judge. That means you are being incriminated on a state charge. But ICE will not come with a state. They will come if they will come with a judicial warrant, which I'm yet to see them do. It will be a federal one.
If they have one, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the administrative warrants, they sort of like look like this, right? And again, these administrative warrants is signed by a DHS officer, so it's not a judicial warrant because it's not signed by a judge. It does not give ICE or Border Patrol the power to come into your house. And here are some quick examples of what it looks like. And then the last thing that I want to talk to y'all is what more or less this dignity plan looks like, so you can think through with your family. Again, it's important to have a private attorney or a nonprofit organization that you're working with. So some organizations have something called DOJ accredited rep or representative, which would it's a specific thing only for immigration law that allows some nonprofits to have people who go through a very lengthy process of training to give advice on immigration law only. Why am I taking the time to actually talk about this? Because fraud is very common against immigrants. So being able to teach the community what an attorney is important. Because a notary in Latin America oftentimes means an attorney. So they think, but we know that a notary is not the same. Not in the US. I will not want the notary to be my attorney. But what ends up happening is that oftentimes immigrants are taken advantage. They sometimes, pay thousands and thousands of dollars for these people. And then even worse, they put their cases in and essentially could end up being deported. Now, this last legislative session, our own Representative Johanna Lopez passed a law in Florida that's actually positive, that allows immigrants that are impacted by this to have recourse, which did not exist before. And then also that notaries now have to put it really big in their office that they are not authorized to actually give legal advice. Now, this is important to even for ourselves, right? Because it is okay for us to do what I'm doing, which is, you don't have to be an attorney to do what I'm doing, right? I'm just giving overall information. But say, for example, Priscilla comes up to me and she says, this is my particular situation, my particular case, and that is already giving legal advice. So, it's okay to give general information, like what I'm doing right here. If somebody asks a specific question about their case, also, if you're not an immigration attorney, you would want an immigration attorney or somebody who understands to actually give the best possible advice, right? It's kind of the idea, but it is against the law, so do not do it. Always tell people about carrying their Know Your Rights cards or kind of practicing these sort of short phrases and to create a dignity plan and protection, which is a plan for their family and themselves. How are they going to safeguard their money and property if they get detained and then if they're detained or deported? How are they, because say for example, I am married. I am actually married. But say my name is not in my husband's bank account. That does not give me the right to go into the bank account and take the money, right? But say something happens to my husband, if I don't have a plan already with that bank account, whether it is a power of attorney or I am on the account now, whatever it may be, I'm not gonna have access to that money, right? So that's why it's important to have a plan and to go through it. Who is gonna pick up your kid? Who is gonna take your kid back to your home country? Does your kid have a birth certificate? Is your kid a citizen of the other country? This is the other thing that happens a lot. So I went to the Brazilian consulate just recently here, and they told me that an appointment now is all the way to July. So this is actually a real question I had because I need to renew my passport. I was like, hey, how long until I can do it? And they're like, oh, do it already because you gotta wait until July. That's why it's important to have a plan, right? Have your documents ready and ready to go. Also, that you have a place that that person trusts, okay, has copies of your documents, or you have all your documents in a place that they know where it is. That's also really important. I mean, I don't know how many times I was like, where's my birth certificate? Oh, where's my social security card, right? You know, real life problems. Put it all together in one specific place, and then somebody in your life needs to know where that is and where all your key documents are for your own protection. But that's part of having a plan. Again, you know, teach people about immigration fraud, which is very common. Tell them about it. Also, tell them not to trust things on Facebook. You know, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. So, you know, because there is a lot of fraud, like on Facebook, Instagram, etc. If you do this, I'll get your papers. Most likely not. So please tell them to be alerted and to be not to fall into it. Questions? Or thoughts? It could be quite. Let me just answer that question right there, which was, even though we have all these safeguards, right? They can still essentially not follow them, right? They can still, even though we have all these protections, this does not mean that these protections are lived in the world, and especially if you are from a marginalized community, that you're more likely to be stopped. You're more likely for something to, you know, to be targeted, right? Like, that was sort of like the spirit of the question, correct? My whole point is that it's true, and absolutely, but our experience has been that when people are able to assert their constitutional rights, we've been able to get people out of detention, and we've been able to save people. So, but if they don't know their rights and they don't assert them, then most likely we don't have a case for them. That's been the situation. So that's why this information is so important. You have your hand up.
So, I know you can't get legal on this. I'm turning to my buddy. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a report that ICE agents were at schools. What's the rule for them having access inside of a school?
That actually is not legal advice, so it's general information.
You didn't ask me to ask that.
So here in Orange County, there is an FAQ that OCPS released, and that FAQ essentially said that this is the practice here in Orange County. That if ICE shows up, even with an administrative warrant, so not the judicial warrant signed by a judge, and are able to prove that they are indeed ICE by showing a badge, they will call the school attorneys to verify that this is actually true. But if so, they would pick up the kid, they would take the kid out of the classroom, take them to another place within the school, and then they will ask ICE if ICE would allow them to alert their parent, the parent of the kid, or have an adult present while they interrogate the kid. So in short, right now, the FAQ is that ICE can go into a school and interrogate a kid without the consent of the parent, or even without the parent knowing.
But they can't walk the hallway.
According to the FAQ, no. No, they would take the kid. But what we are asking the school board to do is for them to only accept a judicial warrant signed by a judge. And if they do, and say they show up with a judicial warrant signed by a judge, that they have to tell the parent. I mean, I think that's just so bare minimum. I would not be okay right now, honestly.
Well, yeah, if
Sending.
in case you wouldn't be able to question a minor without a parent or.
Yes, I mean, like the kid, it's a freaking kid. It's a
constitutional right to remain silent.
Yes, it is a freaking. It's still a freaking kid. And if I'm sending my kid to a school in Orange County, I need to feel safe that my kid is gonna come home unharmed. That needs to be the case. And the school needs to use every legal effort to protect my kid. That's how I see it. And that's not what's happening.
But aren't they using children as bait to get the parent? Hasn't that been happening?
Yes, go ahead.
And while you're doing this instruction, as we're going to do to adults, you remind them to tell their children at the age of comprehension, don't talk to anybody either. I
Correct.
don't know if you've had the nice storybook about the policeman is your friend in the neighborhood or whatever, but not lately.
No, yeah.
Don't talk to anybody but mom and dad.
This is something that we've been talking to community members about because, you know, when you have a kid at home, somebody knocks at your door, they get excited and they open the door, as an example, right? All of that. And actually, it's a really sad story, but because this particular parent told his two daughters about their constitutional rights, ICE came and knocked at their door at a time that they weren't at home. I mean, that only the two kids were home. One was, I think, 11, the other one was 7. And the 11-year-old checked, right, and saw that it was ICE, and they hid inside of a closet. And they were, crying a ton, but trying to stay quiet, right? It's a really sad story from our own community, but it did save that kid. It did save those two kids did not get picked up because they didn't open the door. So yes, teaching kids these things are critical. And yes, it is true that they have used kids to bait people out and have used kids to get them to sign things that they are not, to give up their rights by signing things. They've lied, they've done all sorts of things, that's all true. And also, when we are able to assert our constitutional rights, those things can not be used in court. Go ahead.
Can we have this in Spanish, please? Do you have this in Spanish?
We do have it in Spanish.
Okay, if you could send it to.
Mm-hmm.
And Creole.
I'm sorry. So it says, if ICE is at your home, to remain silent, right? But sometimes if you have children in the background reading, can they just come in to see if somebody's getting hurt, or can they use that? Because I think you could do that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
so
and
if they hear a kid crying, could they just break into your house?
Yes, yeah.
Not ICE, because ICE is not the regular police. The police could use some other efforts.
Welfare check.
Yeah, but that's different. It's not the
So
same.
they can't do that if they hear.
Yeah.
No.
Still could,
Yeah.
they shouldn't.
They should.
Yeah, there's a difference between could and will or should, yes. Let me just take a comment from this side, because I haven't heard much from here. Any thoughts and questions, or go ahead.
So I was just wondering, we see so much on TV. We see what's happening in Minnesota. I think we saw stuff in California before Minnesota. We're seeing a lot of violence. Your experience here in Central Florida, how do you see ICE compared to what we're seeing on the big screen?
I think that ICE is a rogue agency, and they would do whatever it takes for them to do what they want to do. And that's been the experience here too. We've had them lying to people for people to get out of their house. Like a situation with, for example, a woman, an example of a lie, baiting people out. Her daughter is 18 years old, is 18 years old, and then they came and they were outside and said, "Oh, your daughter got into a car accident. We need you to come out so I can talk to you about it." And she got so frazzled in the moment. It was really, really early in the morning. She put on a dress the other way around, and then as soon as she opened the door, they dragged her out and took her.
They weren't ICE, though.
Yeah. But that's a.
Fish and wildlife law enforcement deputized.
But again, this is a case where knowing your rights is so critically important, because she didn't have to open the door, and she would probably be here right now if she hadn't.
One last thing for me, and that is, if you or your neighbors or your friends live in a house with a garage, clean out your garage. So every time that you come home, you drive your car into the garage, close the garage door before you get out of it. Because if you get out of your car in your driveway, you're in the open air, and even if you're going to your house. So if you have the ability to park your car inside the house, the garage is inside the house, and close the garage door, and then get out of it.
Cool.
I've had a couple of people who almost got caught like that. So I said, clean out your garage.
I love it.
Park in it.
I love it. I love it. I want to give 3 things that we can get involved, and then hate to put you on the spot, Tom, but you're here, so you can talk about it too. So one is I want to invite you to be part of the Immigrants Are Welcome Here Coalition, and we're going to talk a little bit about ways to get involved there. We are going to be to the County Commission Watch Day, February 10th. At 8 a.m., we are going to show up and we're going to continue advocating for the county to do the lawsuit, right? To the lawsuit for clarification. So you're invited to participate. We'd love to have you there. The second is we have been able to confirm that ICE is looking at a warehouse not too far from here.
Yeah.
What is it, 15 minutes, right? 10, 15 minutes more or less. I was driving over and I was like, oh, I recognize everything. And then I was like, oh yeah, because the detention center is right there. Like, you know, when you're driving and your memory is like remembering things. So I went, it's a warehouse, okay? It's a warehouse in an industrial area. So one thing that we can do is to continue to advocate with the city of Orlando, but also the company that owns the place, which is called TPA LLC. TPA Group LLC out of Atlanta, which we can all look it up, get their phone number, and call and say, I don't want a detention center in my house. You know what I mean? Yes.
Yes, you want to go after TPA Group, but you also want to focus on their broker, which is stationed in Winter Park, which would be HLI Partners. They're the guys who are actually negotiating the deal, the potential deal with ICE. So they're the first people who ICE would talk to in order to, you know, basically go over the building and sign the contract with them. There's no contract yet. You're still on time to do something about it. Once they do sign that contract, they're going to be too far gone to go back now.
Yeah. So
HLI Partners. That would be 280 West Canton Avenue in Winter Park. It's a building with no signage. Entrance is in the back in the parking. It's right across the street from the police station, fire department, and Rockefeller Capital. And it's a very nice and hidden place with no cameras, no nothing. It's like they don't want you to know that they're there. But those are the guys dealing with these.
So it's also, again, you know, the Atlanta company is called TPA Group. And could you say the name of the local group?
HLI Partners LLC.
Okay. So,
If you could write that down so anybody could take a picture
Yeah, sure.
of
I can
it.
definitely do that.
And then we can
yes.
follow up with that.
This is something that we can do, which is call TPA Group and say we don't want a warehouse, we don't want a detention center near where we live, and that could have a really big impact on them. And then they might just say, you know what, we're going to rent it to someone else, which is exactly what we want them to do. We want the warehouse to be used as a warehouse, not to hold human beings. Now, Commissioner Nicole Wilson wrote an incredible memo, which I think is like super well written, about zoning. Because the truth of the matter is that warehouse is in an industrial complex that was not built out for that kind of sewage, water. I mean, 1,500 people is a lot of people that they want to house in that place. So we can still advocate for our local governments to use their power of zoning and development, protecting development, whatnot, to say no to this. That's another avenue that we're still exploring, you know, but we're also talking to folks at this point to call TPA right now and to put pressure on them. Because here's the deal, y'all. It's not just because of the due process and humanitarian issues related to this detention center. It's also because your life is gonna get worse. You live here. If you're already mad at traffic, imagine when there's like buses coming in and out nonstop. When there are all the trucks that are gonna come in and out. When there is gonna be like the nightmare logistics of 1,500 people getting deported, taken to the airport. You're a lot, like if you hate traffic right now, It's about to get a lot worse if this comes here or near here. So again, it's actually even worse for you than in other places in the city, right? When it comes to this potential detention center. And then finally, the school board, right? The school board, in my opinion, can do more to protect our kids. And some school boards, including St. Paul, for example, they have a policy that says that only with a judicial warrant signed by a judge, they can do what currently OCPS allows with just an administrative warrant.
Can I add to that on the school board?
Actually, can you come in and then already talk about the other two things? Can I put a mic on her?
My husband Paul and I'm Jill Haru.
This is my goddaughter Elizabeth, and she lives in Polk County. So she came here because there's nothing over there in Polk County, or I don't know, Osceola County. Do you know any?
Do you have a counterpart in Polk
Do you
County
have
that she
any
can get in touch with?
organization?
No, unfortunately.
Nothing?
No, unfortunately. So, yeah, right now, Polk County doesn't. It's actually a lot worse there too, because the sheriff is one of the worst sheriffs in the whole country when it comes to civil rights violations. And a big proponent of ICE being more involved with police. So it is but we do not have the same kind of infrastructure there, unfortunately, no. Go ahead.
Okay, just a real quick word on the school board. I'm Jill Haru. I am, along with my husband Paul Haru, we are members of the Faith Leaders Network with the Immigrants Are Here, Welcome Here Coalition. And we are also members of the League of Women Voters of Orange County, and we are the co-chairs of the Immigration Committee at the League of Women Voters. I'm going to just go back to the school board piece. Is that for a long time we were doing advocacy work with Moms Demand Action, and at that point we were going to the school board. They have a public comment section for Orange County. For those of you, I can't speak for. Actually the school board in Osceola does too. But for those of you who are in Orange County. And you can make any public comment that you want. It just can't be a part of the agenda that they're going to be in the regular school board meeting. It's kind of like public comment with the county commission. And so the issue of your concern about the way that their policy is regarding the how they handle agents showing up at the schools, you can share your concern as well as writing to your to the board themselves, to Teresa Jacobs, the chairman, but that public comment is very important, and we've gotten to know the board. The board is very receptive, except the one that represents us in District 3.
Well, we're about to change that.
But yeah, we're working on that. So anyway, but that's an action you can take, and you can look on the OCPS website as to when their meetings are, but it's always 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon when they have the school board, the regular school board meeting. That's the public comment section. And there's a process for signing up to be a speaker there. So that's that. On to the coalition. The Immigrants Are Welcome Here Coalition, I'm not going to go into the whole history, but the Immigrants Are Welcome Here Coalition was put together, I think, at the invitation of you and Erica. And currently, there are 64 partners that are in this coalition, and it's a wide range. I heard a question over here about what can we do? And, there's the political piece that's always there, but there are so many ways to be what I call boots on the ground. And the boots on the ground is what is power. And it's just wide ranging. And I can't share deeply enough or strongly enough how meaningful this is to be a part of things, whether it's going to a protest. But that's not the end of it. It's like there's more to it than a protest. I'll tell you what, there's somebody who can't see. Anyway, I just made that poster. I mean, you can look at it later.
Being
But
white work is
yeah.
not very good.
I did that for our the league. We for a tabling that we did with the league at a Hot Topics. But I think everybody here, and if you don't know, networking is paramount, and it's really important now. I'm just going to share a real quick story that happened just yesterday about the power of networking. I decided I had a choice at 11:30 yesterday to either go to the press conference for that Felipe was a part of, or I could go to the March for Liam that I had heard about. And I don't know if you heard about the March for Liam, but I chose to go to that. And I'm so glad that I did, because when I got there, first of all, I started seeing a few people I knew, and a woman who had been a colleague of mine from 2000, last time we were colleagues was 2004, so that was a long time ago. She showed up. We had run into each other at a protest. She showed up at the march. We palled around at the march, watching these little children chant at the corner of Mills Avenue and Colonial, get city bus, Lynx bus honking, trucks honking, and bigger trucks honking, and a whole bunch of cars. I explained to them, I got there early, this small crew of kids. I told them that when they honk, they like you. They liked that. And they spread the word among the kids and said, when they're honking, they like you. So, they got their taste. But that started by Mom. I said hello to a mom. Turned out she was the organizer of it. She was the parent of the 8-year-old who she had a talk with about immigration, because her daughter was having friends who were disappearing. And so they talked about it, and the mother asked her, well, would you like to do something? Would you like to do a protest? And at first her daughter demurred, and then she came back to Mom and said, I would. And that's how that March for Liam started. And they were laser focused on freeing, that was their chant. And we're talking, that football cheer, we are the Tigers, the mighty, they were singing that, we're the children, the mighty, mighty, it was just so powerful. But even more so than watching the children lead was another woman that I had never met her before until going to one of the Faith Leader Network's events that we participated in. Gloria is her name. Gloria was there, so Annette and Gloria and I are walking, and we stopped with a Hispanic woman with a baby, little tiny thing, very colorful, almost serape-like kind of blanket. And at one point she goes, I was in detention as a kid. I was only there 1 or 2 days, but it was traumatizing. I can't imagine what it's like several months. And then we talked a little more, and it turned out that because she had been in and out of the country illegally 2 times, she can't get a green card. Well, another person that I met there who I'd never known before I got a part of this coalition is Melissa Morantes, who was running for school board for District 1. And she is an immigration attorney. Her partner happens to be on our immigration committee for the league, by the way. But Melissa was there. And I had said hello to her, and I suddenly went, dang, Melissa's right behind me. Hello, Melissa. Meet Alicia. So she gave her card, and she said, call me. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about your situation. She said, I don't,